Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Come together as in a cluster or flock. A grouping of a number of similar things. A cluster of admirers. Gather or cause to gather into a cluster. Walk clumsily. Make or move along with a sound as of a horse's hooves striking the ground. A heavy dull sound, as made by impact of heavy objects. Come together as in a cluster or flock. A grouping of a number of similar things. A compact mass. Gather or cause to gather into a cluster. Scatter or intersperse like dots or studs. Hills constellated with lights. Come together as in a cluster or flock. The poets constellate in this town every summer. Form a constellation or cluster. An orderly crowd. A group of sheep or goats. Come together as in a cluster or flock. Often followed by of, a large number or amount or extent. A church congregation guided by a pastor. A group of birds. Move as a crowd or in a group. Tourists flocked to the shrine where the statue was said to have shed tears. An informal body of friends. Form into a bunch. The frightened children bunched together in the corner of the classroom. A grouping of a number of similar things. A bunch of trees. Any collection in its entirety. Gather or cause to gather into a cluster. She bunched her fingers into a fist. A grouping of a number of similar things. A large sum of money, especially as pay or profit. She made a bundle selling real estate. Sleep fully clothed in the same bed with one's betrothed. A collection of things wrapped or boxed together. Compress into a wad. Gather or cause to gather into a cluster. A package of several things tied together for carrying or storing. Make into a bundle. He bundled up his few possessions. Contend against an opponent in a sport, game, or battle. Experience as a reaction. Collect in one place. A meeting at which a number of athletic contests are held. Be adjacent or come together. Undergo or suffer. Meet a violent death. Fill, satisfy or meet a want or need or conscient RO restriction. Does this paper meet the requirements for the degree? Come together. I'll probably see you at the meeting. Be in direct physical contact with, make contact. Being precisely fitting and right. It is only meet that she should be seated first. Get together socially or for a specific purpose. Meet by design. Be present at the arrival of. Can you meet me at the train station? Collect in one place. We assembled in the church basement. Get people together. Assemble your colleagues. Create by putting components or members together. Collect in one place. Collect in one place. The act of gathering something. Collect in one place. Let's gather in the dining room. Assemble or get together. Gather some stones. Increase or develop. The car gathers speed. Get people together. Gather the close family members. Sewing consisting of small folds or puckers made by pulling tight a thread in a line of stitching. Draw together into folds or puckers. Collect or gather. Conclude from evidence. I gather you have not done your homework. Draw and bring closer. She gathered her shawl around her shoulders. Look for food in nature. Our ancestors gathered nuts in the fall. A jumbled collection or mass. The act of collecting in a mass, the act of agglomerating. The visual appearance of something or someone. A perceptual structure. The composition presents problems for students of musical form. The phonological or orthographic sound or appearance of a word that can be used to describe or identify something. The inflected forms of a word can be represented by a stem in a list of inflections to be attached. Make something, usually for a specific function. Any spatial attributes, especially as defined by outline. Establish or impress firmly in the mind. A body of students who are taught together. Create, as an entity. Social groups form everywhere. Biology. A group of organisms within a species that differ in trivial ways from similar groups. A category of things distinguished by some common characteristic or quality. Sculpture is a form of art. A life-size dummy used to display clothes. Develop into a distinctive entity. Alternative names for the body of a human being. The spatial arrangement of something is distinct from its substance. To compose or represent. This wall forms the background of the stage setting. Give shape or form to. Form the young child's character. Physical chemistry. A distinct state of matter in a system. Matter that is identical in chemical composition and physical state and separated from other material by the phase boundary. A mold for setting concrete. They built elaborate forms for pouring the foundation. An ability to perform well. He was at the top of his form. An arrangement of the elements in a composition or discourse. The essay was in the form of a dialogue. A particular mode in which something is manifested. His resentment took the form of extreme hostility. A printed document with spaces in which to write. He filled out his tax form. Assume a form or shape. The water formed little beads. Form into a bunch. Crowd or draw together. Let's huddle together, it's cold. Crouch or curl up. They huddled outside in the rain. Informal, a quick private conference. Crowd or draw together. Let's huddle together, it's cold. A disorganized and densely packed crowd. A huddle of frightened women. Form into a bunch. Soft lump or unevenness in a yarn, either an imperfection or created by design. tangle or complicate. Something twisted and tight and swollen. Their muscles stood out in knots. A sandpiper that breeds in the Arctic and winters in the southern hemisphere. A hard cross-grained round piece of wood in a board where a branch emerged. The saw buckled when it hit a knot. Any of various fastenings formed by looping and tying a rope, or cord, upon itself or to another rope or to another object. A tight cluster of people or things. A small knot of women listened to his sermon. Make into knots. Make knots out of. She knotted her fingers. Of ships in wind, a unit of speed equal to 1 nautical mile per hour or about 1.15 statute miles per hour. Tie or fasten into a knot. Knot the shoelaces. A bunch of hair or feathers or growing grass. A bunch. A thick swad of plants. A bunch of hair or feathers or growing grass. A bunch of feathers or hair. A collection of objects laid on top of each other. Clustered together but not coherent. An agglomerated flowerhead. Form into one cluster. Volcanic rock consisting of large fragments fused together. A cluster of 5 bright stars forming a cross in the constellation Cygnus. A global cluster in the constellation Centaurus. A star cluster in the constellation Taurus. Greek mythology. 7 daughters of Atlas and half-sisters of the Hyades, placed among the stars to save them from the pursuit of Orion.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.